And we begin tonight with that breaking news that coronavirus is now in Colorado.
When he traveled at the airport, when he was on the airplane, he was asymptomatic, which means there is a low risk of transmission.
And we know of 2 other people with possible exposure to this virus.
There are at least 6 new presumptive positive cases across our state.
Senator Michael Bennet touring the lab as researchers here frantically work to develop a vaccine.
I'm sure we're going to do it as quickly as we can, but people also need to be realistic.
Several schools across the state are warning parents about potential exposure risks.
And in Denver, St. Anne's Episcopal School was dismissed early after a parent tested positive.
The peace of the Lord be with you always.
We're aware that it's a concern, but we're also trying to keep it in perspective.
Panic on Wall Street today as the Dow saw its largest single-day point drop.
The market just got very nervous.
Coronavirus crisis grows worse with each passing day. Tomorrow looks to be no different.
How do you control something that really nobody knows how to control at this moment?
Governor Polis says eventually the state will be able to test anyone exhibiting flu-like symptoms.
Her doctors telling her there's a backlog in testing.
And just during your report, we learned of 2 new presumptive positive cases.
This is one of the most surreal, craziest, strangest, unbelievable nights I can remember. The NBA suspended its season because of the coronavirus. Afterwards, Nikola Jokic was hugging Boban, and I don't know if this is the best idea in this situation.
Since it hasn't been canceled yet, I feel like, why not? I'm just not a person that's going to hide.
The first death confirmed tonight in El Paso County.
There will be more.
Now this virus outbreak is putting all hands on deck.
It doesn't really matter which grocery store you go to. Hundreds of people in line. Shelves were more or less empty.
As bad as it feels right now, it's going to get even worse.
We are going to have to change the way we live, at least for a while, until, quite frankly, we forget about this.
Boy, have we changed. 1 year ago today, the world as we knew it began to slip away.
And tonight we remember the ones we've lost, and we also honor a resiliency we found along the way.
On March 5th, 2020, the first of 434,000 cases of coronavirus would be confirmed here in Colorado. The first death would be reported a few days later. We have lost nearly 6,000 people since.
Yeah, many businesses went bankrupt. Savings were swallowed whole. Schools were closed. They opened and closed again. Students fell behind. Some are catching up. Others are not.
We stopped shaking hands, stopped meeting in person. We took hugs when, where, and however we could get them.
Yeah. When patients left the hospital, we saw the victory lines, and we cheered right along with the nurses.
Boy, did we. And when the clock struck 8, we flew open the windows, reared back our heads, and howled to remind ourselves and the world that we're still here. And tonight, we remember.
Governor Polis is holding a memorial service this evening at the state capitol to mark 1 year. Denver7 CB Cotton is there and begins our team coverage.
Ann and Brian, it's hard to grapple with the idea that this past year was a year of goodbyes for nearly 6,000 Coloradans who buried loved ones due to COVID-19. But that's the tragic reality. And in about 30 minutes, we're going to honor the lives lost. I want to step out of the way and give you a better view. You can see behind me, the state capitol has already turned its lights to a magenta color to represent compassion. Other state and city buildings will be following suit, and we'll get an even better view of that once it's dark out. At 6:30, the wife of Denver Mayor Michael Hancock, she will deliver a song, and a prayer will follow from the pastor of Red Rocks Church. Then a speech from Governor Jared Polis. Now, members of the public have been asked not to come to this general area because of the ongoing pandemic, but there have been a few people passing through before things get started. And I want to let you listen to what one man had to say.
We've all been transformed from this, and to see that we've lost lives just right here in our own community has been really sad. I hope we can, hope everyone can find, I guess, common ground, I think is a big word, common ground, and not, be so divided on one side or the other that ultimately as a community we need each other. We all need to look out for each other, and we would hope that we'd all just, be in that mode.
And we're also expecting to hear from the Colorado Symphony, who will perform Amazing Grace. Reporting live from the state capitol, I'm CB Cotton, Denver7.
CB, thank you for that. And grocery store employees were as important to keeping our state going as anyone. They were also among the most likely to get sick. Denver7's Lance Hernandez has that story for us tonight. Lance?
Well, and one of the grocery workers who was felled by COVID was Randy Narvaez. He was a Facebook friend of mine. He used to work at the 14th and Spear King Supers, then transferred over to 9th and Corona. I used to see him hard at work. He's among all the victims who are going to be honored here tonight. Today, I spoke with his sister and with his daughter.
It's just been really hard because I miss him a lot.
Julissa Schaefer wearing a t-shirt with a photo of her late father, Randy Narvaez, who was a scan coordinator at the 9th and Corona King Supers. The 51-year-old succumbed to COVID last May.
This just is a reminder every day that my daddy is with me no matter where I go or what I do. And he's always in my heart, my mind, and now he's on my skin too.
Julissa memorialized her father with a tattoo, a heart with his initial and a musical note. Some of her favorite memories were going to concerts with her dad.
This is probably one of the very last, actual pictures I have with me and him. I just always remember, no matter what, anytime I would see him, he would just wrap me up in a big hug and it would be, "Hi, baby girl."
He was always making everybody laugh.
Randy's sister, NIKKI Trujillo, says he was her fiercest defender growing up and a gentle man.
He had this giant, laugh from his belly that actually my niece has. And so I love to hear her laugh because it just reminds me so much of him.
Friends and co-workers honored Randy and 2 other King Supers employees claimed by COVID during a motorcade vigil last June. Family members can't believe he's been gone for 10 months. NIKKI choked with emotion when we asked what she's going to miss the most about him.
Him not being there for special times, like my daughter's getting ready to graduate high school in May and he would be there.
She says Christmas wasn't the same without Randy. I asked Julissa what she'd want any future children to know about their grandpa.
And I would tell them, you have to have a big heart like your grandpa Randy, because that's the only way you get through life is with love.
Julissa and NIKKI both say they wish the vaccine would have been here much sooner so that Randy might have been able to take advantage of it. They say family members are getting vaccinated and they're encouraging others to do so as well. Lance Hernandez, Denver7.
And our condolences to all the families who've dealt with loss this year. And as of tonight, grocery store workers can finally sign up for shots. Coloradans 60 and older are also eligible, as are people with certain chronic conditions and people who work in food processing. Today, employees of the JBS plant in Greeley lined up to get jabbed. JBS was the site of one of the worst outbreaks in our state. We will always remember the employees who died on the job. We will never forget the conditions they worked under.
Yeah, we can think of a lot of words to describe the last year, and some of them we can't say on TV. But Denver7 Sloan Dickey has a few of the words we can.
How do you describe a year in a word?
Year in a word.
It's been exactly 1 year since coronavirus was discovered in Colorado, and it's impacted all of us. So we set out across Denver with one question. Can you put this year?
It is hard to find one word.
In a word.
Stress.
Emotional.
I did unpredictable.
Say unimaginable.
Anxious. Tragic.
A lonely year.
So my word's lonely.
Impacting all of us differently.
So many people have lost their lives, and I know a ton of people as a mental health therapist who have lost family members, and it's just really been a tragedy.
But there's been encouragement too.
Perseverance. Everybody as American people just kind of came together and they figured it out and we're getting stuff done.
All of us finding new ways to persevere.
Learning. I've learned so much about myself this year.
And the healthcare community at Presbyterian St. Luke's.
Endurance.
Connection.
So teamwork.
They've found perspective.
My word is perspective.
In the pain.
Just put everything into perspective. Kind of having to think a little bit differently.
We've experienced 1 year in this pandemic that's brought up so many different words.
And we were really hoping it would be over at the end of 2020. And now we are here in March of 2021 and we're still struggling.
But there's many new words that come to mind looking at the year ahead.
Journey. Endurance. Hope. Hopeful.
What's your word?
Hope.
So many hopes and dreams to reclaim.
The word is reclaim.
What was lost, to rebuild, to grow.
I picked growth.
And hopefully those wounds from separation, from division, can start to heal.
undivided.
It's hard to put a year into a word.
So my word is smiles for next year and the following years to come.
But when it comes to the future for Colorado,
It's hopeful.
there is hope.
Hope was the most shared word we heard from people when they were talking about the future. As you just saw, there were so many stories, so many words that were shared with us when we asked people about the past year. The word that rose to the top for me was transformation. Hopefully, we can take this pain and struggle of the past year and use it to bring people together. Guys?
Love the optimism that we can see going forward. All right, thank you, Sloan. A year later, We Honor and Reflect begins tonight at 6:30. You can watch it right here on Denver7. And we want to hear from you. What have you learned this last year about yourself or about others?
What's the one thing you will never take for granted again? Mine is hugging.
Yeah.
I miss hugging my family and my friends. So our email, we really do want to hear from you. Our email is 360@thedenverchannel.com. We cannot wait to hear from you.